In this video, we're going to walk through a short problem calculating direct material price, quantity, and activity variances when the amount of direct materials purchased doesn't equal the amount of direct materials used. For the month of June, Glacier Peak Outfitters plan to produce 2,200 mountain parkas. So we'll use 2,200 mountain parkas to put together our original static or planning budget to figure out how much we will expect to spend for direct materials. Mountain Peaks has the following direct material standards for fiber fill in mountain parkas. Each parka requires 1/10 of a kilogram at a cost of $5 per kilogram. Last month, 400 kilograms of fiber fill were purchased and 210 were used to make 2,000 mountain parkas. So we're going to need to, as our first step, redo our budget, put together as a flexible budget based on our actual level of production, which was 2,000 parkas. And we're told the material we purchased cost us $1,960. Let's go ahead and put together that planning budget. So we had 2,200 parkas at 1/10 of a kilogram per parka, means we would have originally budgeted for 220 kilograms at $5 per kilogram. We would have budgeted a direct material cost of $1,100. Once we did our calculate our actual level of production at the end of the period, we want to put together our flexible budget, which is based on that actual level of production of 2,000 parkas. So we'll take those 2,000 parkas, multiply by 1/10 of a kilogram, and we would have had 200 kilograms as our standard quantity allowed. At a $5 per kilogram price, we would have expected to spend $1,000 had we known we were only going to produce 2,000 parkas. All right, let's go ahead now and see what we do when the amount of materials purchased doesn't equal the amount used. Recall, we purchased 400 kilograms and we only used 210 kilograms. We can back into our actual price by taking the $1,960 and dividing it by 400 kilograms to get an actual price of $4.90 per kilogram. And again, the actual quantity we used doesn't equal the amount we've purchased. So the question then becomes, what do we do with these two center columns? Because typically we use the actual quantity, but is it the actual quantity purchased, which is the 400, or is it the actual quantity used, which is the 210? We solve this by separating the center column into two columns. We'll calculate our quantity variance based on the quantities we used. We'll calculate our price variance based on the quantities of fiber fill that we purchased. So in both cases, we'll multiply the actual quantities by our $5 standard price. And on the purchase side of things, we would have expected to spend $2,000 to purchase the fiber fill. And in terms of how much we used, we would have expected that 210 kilograms we used to have cost us $1,050. So our price variance then is the difference between the $2,000 we would have expected to spend for 400 kilograms of fiber fill and the $1,960 that we actually spent. This, of course, is a favorable price variance since the actual price we paid of $4.90 per kilogram is less than the $5 we expected to pay or had budgeted. We have a $50 quantity variance, and that's the difference between the quantity we used, 210, and the quantity we purchased, 200. So 10 kilograms at $5 per kilogram, and that variance is unfavorable because we used more than we should have in making 2,000 parkas. Our activity variance is $100, and of course it's favorable because the standard quantity allowed, the amount that we should have used, is less than we had originally budgeted. Whenever we have lower levels of production, we will always have favorable activity variances for our expenses. A couple things we should note. One, you cannot calculate a spending variance. It doesn't make sense to talk about, since that spending variance is typically based on the difference between the actual quantity we used and the actual quantity we purchased. And in this case, they're different, so it doesn't make sense to talk about a spending variance. Nor does it make sense to talk about a total variance, that is, the difference between what we actually spent and what we originally planned, because we purchased excess materials that we can use in future periods.